Greetings and welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope everybody had a wonderful week, getting ready for a wonderful weekend. This is my last weekend to relax a little bit. Starting next week, I punch my way through California, hopefully without getting involved in any Walmart riots over EBT cards. From there, it's, I don't know. I'm going to have to get creative on places to overnight because it's like every rest area between San Francisco and Los Angeles is closed. I'm like, what are you thinking, California? But apparently they're not because it's California. So that being said, it's going to be a really weird week next week. So just be aware that in the event that there could be some delays on videos, although I've been trying to stay a couple days ahead of videos. If you've noticed, we've been putting one out Thursday morning as well. And so really, I'm going to try and keep ahead of that. But at the same time, next week's going to be really, really weird with a lot of driving in between. And so it's just going to depend on what I have. But anyway, that's what's going on. But there are unfortunately some things that I want to see in California. So I'm going to have to go down and do that. And then eventually I'll get down to the Mojave Desert area where I can stop and slow down again and take it a little more slow. But we'll see what's going on. We also have a new short story about to be released. So if you are not in the supporter networks and you've been thinking about it, this one, I have not felt as though I wrote a really, really good short story since I did Chatter last fall. Or maybe it was early in the winter. I forget. I was somewhere down in Florida. I think it was in January we released that one. We have released a couple other stories, which were okay, but they just weren't like, I didn't feel it. This story I got, I can feel it. It is an excellent, excellent story. So, of course, you can read the first part of it on Locals without paying. Everywhere else, it is part of the paid membership package, and you would be able to read the story, which is about 5,000 words, and I also make the audiobook version available for download for the month as well for a support. With that, keep an eye out for that. That'll probably happen sometime mid next week. I just finished the text. I need to do a couple rounds of editing, and then I need to lay the tracks and do the audio recording. So expect about a week or so, maybe a little bit less than a week. That is going to roll out. And we have right now we're in good internet. I see questions about buffering. No buffering on my end anyway. I don't know about you guys, but with that, if you want to help support the channel, you can have a look over at switchedtolinux.com/support. And like I said, Locals, I do make the first part. That's a 5-part story. The first part is free on Locals. The whole thing, of course, is available there after the membership subscription. We also have Subscribestar and Patreon as well. You can support the channel over there or use one of our affiliates that is listed over there on the side. So if you want to help support the channel, that is the best way to do that. And today we are going to be going into this. Actually, I need to grab a battery handy because I'm noticing my battery is really low in my mouse and it just bleeped at me, and I'm not sure if it's a dead battery or something. So I'm just going to have a few batteries on standby. Hopefully one of these 4 at least has enough juice to get me through the show. But if I do happen to run low in battery, I will do a hot swap switch on my batteries, and I will find a better one later on. But that will be good enough. So we are going to start with our Are You Being Cyberstalked at Work section first, because this is an interesting subject where we are looking at just kind of what's going on in the world as far as cyberstalking. We've covered this before on the Weekly News Roundup and a few other articles looking at a lot of the types of tools that are being done. And it asks questions, you know, does work mean we are sitting at a computer or pecking away at the keyboard, actually being quote unquote full productive? And if you're not doing that, like what if I work really well by outlining things and doing flowchart maps on a piece of paper? Am I still working? Yes. And the problem is that we have reached this peak technology era that is so data, quote unquote, data focused, even though most of the people that want this data to be used don't know how to read or interpret the data, but they're sold all these things. And I understand. I work with a company that the CEO just gets everything that crosses his inbox. It's like, no, that's a spam. I mean, I'm trying to tell him, nearly everything that hits your inbox that you didn't ask for is probably a scam. But that's the way it goes. And just trying to help navigate that is kind of part of my job in that. Where we actually start in today is this guy here just finished college, and I know, like, the pains I go through on this show. I had to breach my firewall to go onto TikTok to grab this video for y'all. So I hope you appreciate the torture I put myself through to find this video. But this gentleman here, he released this video that went viral, and he basically started working on a new job at a work from home, work remote thing. And as he did that, he realized he had to install this very dystopian software. Let's hear briefly what he had to say.
So I work from home, and my employer just started time tracking. So it takes screenshots every 10 minutes or so, tracks my mouse activity, keyboard activity, the URLs I visit, and what percentage of time I spend on doing whatever.
Okay, so we'll stop there for now. And so effectively, the software is installed, and the software, what it does here is it says that, where's the exact quote here? Was it that one? I thought it was that article that had the exact stuff that the software was doing, and I thought I had highlighted it. But he installs the software, and he said this. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the software captures screenshots every 10 minutes, tracks keystrokes, monitors mouse movements, and records websites visited. And so he gets caught up in this going, yeah, this is a little bit dystopian, but, I guess if you want to have a job. So the fact of the matter is, are we ready for a system of pure tracking? This is a good fundamental question that we might have to ask. And so with this, there's been a relaunch in the debate. Of course, that video came out, I think, October 7th, somewhere around there. And this article here came out, and I'm not quite sure. This is Sites in Plus. I'm not totally sure I trust this. It might be AI slop, because every one of these links is just a link back to the article itself. It's really funny. But anyway, I did read the content, and there is some good things to think about, and I thought it would be worth talking about these. Remote and hybrid work models become more entrenched. Companies are increasingly relying on monitoring tools to track productivity. Now, the big question here is, what is the task of my job? Is my job to sit at a computer and constantly peck away so it seems like I'm perpetually busy? Or is my task happen to be to actually get work done? And if our task is to simply get work done, why do you need all of this tracking? It's like, oh, you're stealing work. Why? Because I happened to cross over one other website while I was maybe waiting on something to finish. I mean, look at the work I do in like web design. Let's just take this one here. I had to clear out a server the other day, and believe it or not, when you push the delete button, it takes a little bit of time for the server to process, and sometimes it could take 5 minutes or so. Well, guess what? That 5 minutes is still taking my computer up. I'm still on the clock, but I might jump over and look at something else. Now, fortunately, I am entirely a contractor, purely on my own terms, and I dictate what my work is and what my time is and things like that. So I don't have any creepy dystopian spy software installed on my computers, but I also have the integrity to not steal time and not be doing a bunch of other weird stuff, and while simultaneously billing the clients for what we should be doing. But there is always some form of downtime. There is always some form of time that you're doing things that's not directly on the computer, even at work from home. I mean, you might be using sticky notes. You might be taking notes on a piece of paper. You might be sitting back trying to think of how to solve a problem, which sometimes is best done by turning off the computer, or just like stepping away from the computer, throwing on some relaxing music, and just taking a brief breather. That can give you the solution to the problem you might be seeking. Are you doing work in that time? Well, if your task is to constantly be pecking away at the computer, then the answer is probably no. But if you happen to have the task of sitting down and accomplishing certain goals, then the goals that are you accomplishing things should be the benchmark of if you're working, not dystopian tracking software that basically becomes spyware on your system. And so he acknowledged the business rationale behind such tools. He questioned whether time tracking truly reflects productivity, echoing a growing sentiment among remote workers who feel that constant surveillance undermines autonomy and trust. That's one of the reasons I generally am not I'm not a fan of this type of stuff. It's like, you can't trust me. You hired me to do a task, and you can't trust that I'm actually working on your task. Now, I have worked in the past with contracts that mostly through a third-party contracting, kind of like, it was actually the company that ended up being purchased by what is the name of that company? I don't know. It's one of those big places people post jobs and you come in. Upwork, I call it Upchuck. That was the most abominable garbage that happened after that company occurred. But back in the old version of that, you would have a thing, and while you were working on that clock, it wouldn't do keystrokes, but it would take random screenshots and things like that. And as long as you used that and the client did not object to the particular screenshots, you were guaranteed to get paid for your work. And so I can understand in some instances where this happens to come in play, but it also depends, are we doing an hourly project or are we doing a salary-based project? So if I were to do projects that are, this is the project, this is the flat fee, you have no business to be taking screenshots of my computer. Well, it boils down to employees. If you are a salaried employee, no one has any business taking pictures of what you're doing on your computer, because you are a salaried employee. It doesn't matter. You have a series of tasks that need done. And so in any instance, in any type of salaried employee should never, ever, ever on any circumstance have this type of stuff, with the sole exceptions to making sure that you're not doing illegal things, going to illegal sites and stuff like that, which, is easily blocked in the IT department, not on the individual employee workstation. If you're working hourly, it makes a little bit more sense. So this other question this boils down into is privacy. Employee monitoring software has become commonplace in remote environments, with tools offering granular insights into activity levels, task completion, and online behavior. Excessive tracking can erode morale, foster disengagement, and shift focus from outcomes to merely activities. All right, so in many jurisdictions, employers are legally permitted to monitor activity, provided they inform staff about the methods and the scope. And so I wanted to look into that, and this one here actually covered some of the laws about this. So this is ADP, so workplace monitoring, what is allowed and what is off limits. And so looking at this, the ECPA, this law, and the National Labor Relations Law both govern whether and how you can monitor phone calls and computer use, and when you can conduct video surveillance. And the problem with these laws is, just like a lot of the privacy policy statements in this country, they have absolutely no teeth. It's not based on what you can and cannot do. It's all based on, do you inform consent? Outside of, you're not allowed to put surveillance cameras monitoring the toilets in the bathroom, which is quite dystopian. Although what's kind of funny is I did see a meme today where in China, I guess, they will have a sign above the bathroom door, occupied, and it tells you how long it's been occupied. That's kind of interesting. Guy's been in there for 6 minutes. Must have been to Taco Bell recently. I don't know. But the ECPA is a federal law. It protects email, phone conversations, and data stored electronically while those communications are being made, are in transit, or when they're stored on computers. It restricts the reception, and monitoring of oral, wire, and electronic communications, unless certain conditions, such as legitimate business purposes and employee consent to monitor are met. So you have to consent to be monitored, and it must be for quote-unquote legitimate business purposes. And of course, the companies interpret this as it's our computer, it's our building, therefore it's all legitimate business, so you have to. The question is, can an employee go, because according to the law, the employees say, no, you're not allowed to monitor me. Well, what does the company do? Well, they just fire you and hire the next guy who doesn't care. And that's kind of the problem and why these have absolutely no teeth. You see, if these had any form of teeth, they'd say an employee must consent to be monitored, and you absolutely may not. Like, if you fire an employee that says, I choose not to be monitored, you had better have such an ironclad case. Otherwise, we're just going to fine you like 40 years of their salary or something. You know, something insane like that. But the reality is that while there's these laws, every one of these laws is the employees has consent to be monitored. Well, what happens when Tim Lee comes up here and says, well, I don't consent to be monitored? They go, well, we don't consent to hire you. Bye-bye. We'll find one of the 700,000 other people who do not care if they're being monitored or not, because I got to pay them bills. Got to pay them bills. We know EBT ain't coming, you know. In this, employees must acknowledge the notice in writing or electronically, and employers should retain the acknowledgement to demonstrate compliance with the law. Employees have additional rights under state laws that may be triggered by electronic monitoring, such as keystroke trackers. California's Privacy Act expands things to say employees have the right to know about such activities, how data will be used, and the right to opt out of the sale of their personal data and other certain rights, of course. That's a broad consumer law. But the reality, again, is, you know, enforcement doesn't have any teeth. Under phone calls, employers must generally obtain consent from at least one party in communication. Of course, you are the party granted this phone call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes. If these phone calls were monitored for quality assurance purposes, why is the quality so stinking low? There's a thought. However, several states require consent from all parties. Okay. Certain states require the employer obtain consent from both service representatives and clients. And under computer use, they say for valid business purposes, employers may monitor the use of company-owned electronic communication systems to help manage privacy expectations, communicate a written policy that explains that the purpose of monitoring is to gather information for legitimate business reasons. They should have, and employees, of course, should have no expectation of privacy. And, you know, if you're using an employee computer, I understand that. And this is kind of where we get into the mix of being, you know, work from home employees and things like this. Because if I'm work from home and I'm paid hourly, you might have a better argument for having some form of tracking system on your personal computer. But if I work from home and I am salaried, under no way, shape, or form should you ever allow that stuff to be installed on your personal devices at home, or even on your work devices when you're working from your home. Because as a salaried employee, you have a series of tasks, and it does not matter if it takes you 20 hours to do those tasks or 80 hours to do those tasks. That's the point of being a salaried employee. And so we need to have a lot more teeth to push back against this nonsense, and a lot more, stopping any form of potential retaliation. Under video surveillance, employers generally have the right to conduct video surveillance in certain work areas for legitimate business purposes, provided they notify employees and visitors of the surveillance. And of course, one of the questions is on employee surveillance. So some states have restrictions on video surveillance, such as prohibiting employers from recording audio and limiting where video surveillance is taken. However, employers should not install video in places where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy, such as locker rooms, restrooms, or dressing rooms. But of course, then there's other questions about what about employee phones, which they actually address a little bit later on, which is also interesting. There's also some limits on social media. Early on in social media, some organizations were saying, yeah, you have to let us see all your social media. That's generally against the law. It's generally, unless your social, if your social media is public, they have the right to browse your social media. But if you have a social media that's locked down explicitly among your friends, the laws are pretty clear mostly on many state level, that you are A, not required to open up your social media, B, you're not required to friend your boss, C, you are not required to let your boss see what is on a private social media account. So, and that's probably, I don't know, that's probably a good thing. Although, sometimes seeing what's on social media may very well dictate whether I want to hire somebody or not. But again, if they're hiding it from the world, who cares? It's not going to impact you all that much. So then, of course, employee use of personal devices, there's some of those. What about the employer generally has the right to monitor work-related activities such as work email during work hours on such devices. So there's no monitoring allowed or should be allowed on off time, even if it's your devices. And of course, now we have this question about employees using personal devices to record video and audio to find violations of the law. That is interesting. So there are indeed some laws. Now, why did I want to talk about this? Well, of course, it all boils down to Microsoft, because Microsoft Teams is about to become a lapdog for your boss, automatically snitching on your live location when connected to the office Wi-Fi. So effectively, Teams will now read your Wi-Fi connection and deem where you are at. Now, if you work in a big campus office space, then they would be able to tell what building you're in or what part of the building you're in based on the Wi-Fi. But if you're not tied to it, the new update to Teams is going to be able to tell your boss really quick in a simple notification where you happen to be at. So your Teams will basically be broadcasting your location through the application itself. So, if you better be working from home, not working from a coffee shop in Tahiti or something, It happens Microsoft is currently working on a new Teams feature that will use Wi-Fi network connections to pinpoint a user's exact location. For context, Teams will automatically update a user's work location when they connect their devices to an office Wi-Fi or even a personal one. Feature is poised to reduce confusion at the workplace, allowing managers and employees to identify each other's location in the office. Why not ask? There's a thought. Hey, you in the office? Where are you? Is that hard? No, we want the dystopian 1984 tracking stuff instead, because somehow that's more comforting. When users connect to their organization's Wi-Fi, Teams will automatically set their work location to reflect the building they are working in, as if everybody has, some of these big tech companies are so out of touch because they work in these giant multi-building campuses. I actually think that many of these employees who make the last mile services for people, they should be forced to work at home from a backwoods country location. With a meager salary. So they get a chance to see what it's like to use their software on a lower grade computer with the internet that you get in the sticks. They might actually make a good product if they have those limitations. Go, dude, I just can't use this because, believe it or not everybody has access to the latest and greatest T9 billion processors with gigabit fiber, okay? We do not all have access to that. Many people have to buy the $500,000 computer at Best Buy because that's what's in their budget, and they have an internet that probably legitimately sucks. And I think if many companies tried to use these services from lower end computers in the middle of the sticks in America, they might actually build better products because they'd work around the limitations that the average American has. But these guys are out of touch. I mean, not even most employees work in multi-building campuses. This is completely unnecessary, except to track exactly where you are at. You can easily pinpoint the location via Teams as long as they are connected to the offices. On the other hand, it can also be used to identify who's not working from the office. Oh, you gotta snitch. You gotta snitch. And that really is the purpose of this, is that it's all to track you. This is all just part of the surveillance state. How long before Teams itself is going to start doing key log stroking and all this other type of stuff, because that's kind of the type of stuff that it wants to do. And so that kind of is a problematic point. All right. There's what we had to say about that one. Let me know your thoughts about that one down below. And moving on to our second topic. Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. We are talking now about, is AI a liability for you? And this one here is, the short answer is yes. In fact, before I get into it, there's two more things that come to my attention as I was working on this. One of those is, we'll mention this one, Robbie Starbucks. He just filed a lawsuit this week against Google because Google's AI, and not just Google, I think it's everybody's AI, has basically been pushing out the absolute worst, most horrible stuff about this person. And I've heard his name before. I don't know under what context or exactly who he works for. But according to AI, he is this, he basically is the most evil person walking the planet right now. And they have a long track record, almost 2 years of contacting Google and other CEOs of these AI companies and saying, hey, what's going on with this? Can you guys fix this? None of this stuff is true. And it would go deep with its AI hallucinations on simple prompts like, give me the bio of this guy, because apparently he wronged them in their past life or something. So that's just one of those cases. And I've always said this, why is it that AI never hallucinates that somebody has built an orphanage? It always hallucinates some form of misconduct. Well, the reason is because AI is evil. It is trained on the things we like to see, and as people who are naturally bent towards evil, and we are, it is trained on these things, and so when it wants to provide an answer, it's programmed to provide an answer, and it refuses to do so, it doesn't find something, it makes it up in what we call an AI hallucination. And because all of the training is overwhelmingly negative news, because that's what sells, AI overwhelmingly produces negative hallucinations on people. And that is a fundamental problem that we have to look at. So that is actually one of the cases that I saw. The other one is actually still a little bit of speculation, but we've been following the YouTuber who got 2 videos taken down this week for simply showing you how to create a Windows 11 computer, without a Microsoft account. And YouTube's been taking those down under the topic of it creates dangerous, it teaches people to do dangerous and life-threatening things, which is totally insane and totally crazy. And in one of his latest videos, he speculates that this is all just AI. In fact, we saw a similar principle. One of the things that was happening a while back is if people started on this trend, then pretty much any trend, and it would start becoming oversaturated, the AI content moderators on all of these content platforms would just start mass flagging everything. It was kind of an interesting thing. And I'm wondering if that's not what might be going on, but it's very clear AI is involved in this. And then of course we find out, and I have almost no information on this, it's just breaking today, YouTube offered effectively a retirement buyout to everybody, citing AI. And we're going to be talking about that here in a few minutes here with the Amazon laying off thousands of people for AI. It looks like Google now may be laying off thousands of people for AI. And you have all of these issues. Well, what it appears might be happening is the AI moderation, they basically want to probably lay off all the moderation teams, appoint it all to AI, but the AI is still making critical mistakes. So those are 2 other stories that happened in the last 24 hours since I was writing my various notes and things like that. But I want to go ahead and cover a lot of articles about AI. And the first one is to show that AI can indeed be used for some positive things. There are some positive stuff that one can do with AI. In this case, a family had a death in the family, and the hospital presents them with a $195,000 bill for the medical services. And in these medical services, the family looks and says, this is absurdly expensive for a couple hours, really, of medical treatment. So they actually, the first step, though, they had to do is they had to push back on the hospital and say, hey, you can't just say, here's $195,000. You need to break this down a little bit. because they didn't do that. They simply handed them a $195,000 medical bill with no breakdown. They're like, yeah, I need to see that broken down a little bit, buddy. And so they gave them the giant broken down bill. And then what they did is they fed the bill into Claude AI with their, I think, $20 a month subscription. And Claude AI was able to point out issues with the billing that took the $195,000 bill down to $33,000. Now, was AI absolutely 100% necessary for this? The answer is no, because the first major step is give me the breakdown of the bill, and then you just have to look at it. But the AI was actually able to go through and find some things that were hard to find. And so in one instance, let's see, they say the final bill was sky high, large because the relative's medical insurance lapsed 2 months prior to the day, but the scale of the charges was extraordinary and the bill they received was incredibly opaque. The mourning individual first had to go to some to and fro with the hospital administrators to lift the veil and break down what exactly cardiology at $70,000 represented. So one of the things that they found, though, once they got that detailed bill, is Claude proved to be a dogged forensic ally. They said the hospital billed both for a master procedure and all its components. So a master procedure says it's going to be this one thing, which includes this, and this. Okay, so the master covers all of that, whereas if you don't do the master, you just itemize the individual items. Well, it charged for the master and every individual item. Now, is that a simple mistake? Probably not. It's probably because these hospitals are corporate-run hospitals that are responsible to their fiduciary shareholders and not the local stakeholders. And if the hospitals went back to being accountable to the local stakeholders, who would actually probably crucify them for doing this type of meddling with people's lives and their pocketbooks, we would probably have a lot better of a medical system. But as long as the hospital is allowed to be corporate and the corporate follows under the laws of the SEC and the fiduciary responsibility of the corporation is to enrich the shareholders, guess what? They don't really care, because for every one guy that finds all of the errors to take a $195,000 bill and turn it into $33,000, they're going to find about 50 people who simply pay it with their mourning. And that is the biggest scandal here. We don't need to solve it through some government policy. We need to solve it by saying, yeah, hospitals can't be for-profit corporations under the SEC filings. All right, that's just end it. End it. Hospitals can't do that. Hospitals can't be for-profit. There you go. We solve a lot of problems right there. All right. But the hospital billed the master procedure, again, for every component of it. It unpacked the hospital's also improper use of inpatient versus emergency code. So there's a difference there. And obviously one of them charges more and it should have charged less. So it found that. You'll find that every single thing here, the hospital is beefing up the bill, which is why I'm being so hard on the hospital. Okay, so another big catch was an issue where a ventilator services are billed on the same day as an emergency, which is actually a regulatory violation in some circumstances. So they might actually be able to be looked at by regulatory boards to see if they're doing things. So long story short, the hospital made up its own rules, its own prices, and figured it could grab as much money from unsophisticated people. That's what the family said. After the great work on the figures, the chatbot helped to create letters that held a lot of the sort of legal action, bad PR, and appearances before legislative committees. And this ultimately whittled the bill down to $33,000 from $195,000. But the family seemed much more satisfied with their $20 per month Claude subscription. So obviously AI can have some positive impacts. I don't want to completely reject that. But that being said, I do want to spend a lot of time talking about why the AI itself here is much more problematic. Okay. And we're gonna go down to flat out dystopian. We're gonna start with bad and we're gonna end in Lord take me please. All right. So Atlas browser pushes out. This is OpenAI's new agentic browser. Of course, Perplexity has their browser. I think that one's Comet. And then Microsoft just released an AI agentic version of Edge. And of course, OpenAI's like, oh, we're getting panicky. We don't have our AI agentic browser. Yep, quick, get it to market. They get it out to market. And guess what? This thing is super susceptible to prompt suggestions, which Brave identified. We talked about that a little while ago. So it did not take researchers long to find that Combining the search and prompt bar called the Omnibox can be exploited, what they call a prompt injection, which means we may have to start worrying about the dangers of this prompt injection. When you give your browser the power to act on your behalf, you are giving criminals a chance to abuse that trust. So Brave researchers a few months ago said AI-powered browsers that can take actions on your behalf are powerful yet extremely risky. If you're signed into sensitive accounts like your bank or your email provider in your browser, simply summarizing a specifically fabricated Reddit post could result in an attacker being able to steal money or your private data. And they demonstrated this. I think it was on the comment browser. OpenAI, however, claims to have implemented protections against all of these. Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. You know, it's kind of like the story we covered the other day. You know, what was it? That was the AI education. Our system is designed; it cannot possibly hallucinate. Yeah, right. Hallucinate itself right into sexual misconduct. All right. Agentic mode runs also operate under certain boundaries. Cannot run code in the browser, download files, or install extensions. Data access cannot access other apps on your computer or file systems to read or write ChatGPT memories, access saved passwords, or use autofill data. Browsing activity, pages, ChatGPT visits in agentic mode are not added to your browsing history. See, none of that precludes being attacked by being signed into a bank or by being signed into an email. Brave demonstrates it. That's it. These safeguards are not safeguards against those. These often fail because they interpret any instructions they find as user prompts without a stricter input validation. With more robust boundaries, these tools remain highly vulnerable to prompt injection attacks. Now, the thing is that agentic browsers are too new. We have not seen solid in the wild breaches of these yet, but I promise as these are rolling out, more people are using them, we are going to find those. I'll give it maybe a month or two. Depending on these. Now, of course, we mentioned this briefly, but Amazon is now cutting 30,000 corporate jobs. Could be implementing the largest job reduction since 2023. The job cuts are expected to affect various sectors, including human resources, devices and services, operations, and others. So Amazon continues to implement more AI agents and fewer corporate jobs will be needed. Now, there was some discussion about this that I saw the other day, and I forget who it was I was watching. But they said, when, a lot of automation came in, like ATMs came in. Your ATMs came in and people thought it would completely kill bank tellers. And according to this person, and he didn't cite statistics or cite resources, but according to this person, there actually caused an increase in the need of bank tellers. Although I'm not quite sure why. And obviously, ATMs occurred, decades and decades ago. And one of the things I know right now is some of these banks are consolidating so much it's annoying. In fact, I just had one of my banks where one of my corporate accounts is at, and I go with small banks. Well, 3 small regional banks all merged into one. So they reset all of the password stuff, and then they sent us this thing that was not particularly easy to figure out what the actual temporary password was, and I get locked out of it, so I have to call them up this morning, and our call is important to you for 40 minutes on hold. So where we went to a small regional bank where I'd call it and an operator at the local bank would pick up, now I go to, I don't know how big these guys are now, but I had to sit on hold for 40 minutes to explain my problem to the first person, pick up the phone and go, well, we'll have to transfer you to our team for that. And so now I got transferred on to another team. Fortunately, they picked up in only like 5 minutes of hold. So it's like a giant colossal waste of time, and all because of forms of automation. Now, I know one of the other banks that I work with, they've actually been cutting whole branches down. In fact, we had branches out. We had a branch out in Millheim, a branch out in Spring Mills, a branch out in Center Hall, and then there's like 6 branches in State College. Well, they cut the branch in Millheim and said, well, it's just a short drive to go to Spring Mills. And then they killed the bank in Spring Mills. Well, it's just a short drive to Center Hall. Then they killed the one in Center Hall. Well, it's just a short drive to Bollesburg. And then they closed one in Bollesburg. But we still have 5 branches in State College. Why don't you cut one of the 5 branches in State College and keep a few of the remote ones out there? And all those people lost their jobs. So was that AI or ATMs? Neither of those. But the point is that we can't simply say, hey, AI is going to cut this over. You see, the ATM cuts out small, simple tasks like going in there and taking out money. That's a simple automation. 30,000 jobs being cut to outsource it to AI. We are not replacing 30,000 jobs with fixing the AI, watching the models. No, we have reached a point where job losses are going down. And the person he was debating with, he's like, I don't know about that, because right now we have one of the lower workforce participations since 1970s. And so, and how much of this, and we've been seeing a big drop off since AI was released only a couple years ago. So we are going to see a lot more job losses. And yes, AI will bring some jobs with it. I mean, we'll get more power plant workers as these companies are forced to turn on nuclear power plants again. But it's not going to take, of course, they're going to power that with AI mostly too. And it's not going to be a significant amount of jobs. It's certainly not going to be 30,000 jobs created. Amazon's not going to create 30,000 jobs in one other area by cutting 30,000 out of this area. And I see us, we have reached a turning point that we've reached that peak automation that's going to cause a mass job loss. And that will be a fundamental problem. And then, of course, moving on, this one here is actually tied to a TikTok prank that's going around right now. So if you have kids on TikTok, please love your children enough to keep them off of that toxic platform. But let's say you do. The TikTok joke that's been going around lately is teenage kids, usually it's been really popular among the girls trying to get a laugh from their parents. They'll use one of these AI things like Nana Banana, and they'll Photoshop a homeless guy in their bed. And then, so they'll take a selfie of them in the room alone with their bed in the background. And then they have one of the AI platforms put a homeless man sitting on the bed, and they'll text their parents this picture and go, hey, this guy was really hungry and he was tired, so I let him in and let him sleep on my bed and stuff like this. And it's caused a lot of parents are like, oh, what are you doing? All this kind of stuff. Well, this woman thought it would be fun to do this very same thing. So she sends she takes a picture of herself and uses one of these AI platforms to put a masked man behind her. And she texts this to her husband, thinking her husband's going to run home like the hero and kick in the door and get this guy out. Well, the guy did what any sane, rational guy does when his wife is being threatened. He calls the police. So the police come and kick the door in with a battering ram. 7 guys burst into the door and they bust in there and find, oh, it was all a prank on the husband. So now the woman gets to go to jail and the husband has to think, is this a divorceable cause? Okay. And so this is just kind of tied in. Just be aware that this is a TikTok trend going around where people will put either a homeless guy or a burglar or something in there and text that out, going like, oh my God, what's going on? And I got news, I feel strongly about this. If you use these AI or the internet to do some type of crime like this, I think you should lose your computer privileges legally. I mean, we keep pedophiles off of computers when they're released from jail. Usually for almost ever. We should do the same thing. If you go to jail connected to some stupid internet social media prank, you should lose your privileges to use a computer. You should. You have demonstrated you are not competent enough to handle this thing that you want to make a prank about this. And so this gal, at least she goes to, I don't know if that's an actual footage. You never know if these are actual. I think this is actually real footage. I think this one is. But yeah, so that woman does something stupid. Of course, all this empowered by AI. So AI is now giving us a tool that we're using to prank our family members and causing deep stress in so doing. This is ridiculous. We've talked about character AI before. Well, we have a second self-deletion among teenage audience with character AI. So now it's dealing with, on top of the first 2 lawsuits it had for one self-deletion and one failed self-deletion, now we have a third lawsuit against character AI for once again self-deletion. And so they said, okay, we're using age verification. We're going to kick teenagers off our platform. Now, they didn't exactly state it exactly that way, but what they're trying to say is we're trying to shift from being a AI companion chat to being a like a story builder type chat, so you can kind of role play with it and develop a story and stuff like that. So that's what they're doing. Of course, one of the things they had said down here in the article down here, though this is the other case, this is yet another teenager engages in self-deletion. And they basically kind of say, yeah, we kind of want you to go out and use like OpenAI or some of these other chat systems instead of ours, because there's just too much liability around here. Of course, OpenAI is also finding themselves in one of these. So OpenAI have allowed open-ended conversations with chatbots as well, including some kind of dangerous things. So, yeah, we'll see a little bit more of that in our Sillyville. Now, for our last article here, it was originally going to be in Sillyville, but I thought I warned about this stuff on the Weekly News Roundup not even 2 months ago. So, a kid named Taki is handcuffed after the school's AI security system flags his Doritos as a gun. All right, so I warned about these in a video, one of our headlining videos a couple weeks ago. I think it was a month or two. And we were talking about these schools are implementing these AI systems, which are supposed to detect all these things. Of course, we had the hilarious one where the one university was sent into lockdown because a guy was carrying an umbrella. I mean, how dare you carry an umbrella on a day it's forecasted to rain? You can't possibly be doing that. And that was a little bit more hilarious because of the things going on. Now, here is the thing about this, is that in this instance here, this is a high school. This is a Baltimore high school, which Baltimore, if you're unaware, is one of these. It has a very high crime rate, and it has a lot of the racial conflict going on. And so this is, I believe, a black student who is eating a bag of Doritos on school property, I think it was outside of school. And the AI system deployed on the campus grounds flagged the Doritos as a gun. So now you have an AI falsely flagging a black man holding Doritos as a black man holding a gun. And so it causes a whole bunch of police to rush in, and without assessing the scenes, they simply rush in and handcuff the teenager. And I think he was 16 or 17, somewhere over here. All right. And so they come in, they do this, and then they start grabbing all the photos and detailing them closely. Now, there's body cam footage here. It's like 3 minutes, and it is literally the most boring body cam footage I've ever seen. This is not police rushing in and handcuffing a kid. It's literally part of the investigation, so I'm not going to play that. If you want to watch it, you can find the article. All the links are in the description down below. You can read it, and you can watch this. It is truly, from a guy who watches a lot of police body cam footage, this is one of the most boring body cams I've ever seen. But just a warning, so I'm not going to play any of it here. But 16-year-old Taki Allen is handcuffed for the investigation of looking at this. All right. Now, there's a bunch of other things in there. Of course, a lot of fun, not to be jokes about it. But here's kind of what I wanted to say about this, okay? I warned about this already. And here we have a place which already has a lot of racial conflict. Police bust in and they handcuff a 16-year-old black man for holding a bag of Doritos, because the AI falsely flagged a bag of Doritos as a gun. All right. Now, the police should have absolutely looked at these photos before busting on in, for sure. Because it was pretty clear to them once they looked at the photos for probably the first time, that looks like a bag of chips. Is that a bag of chips? I think it's a bag of chips. Hey, there's a bag of chips in the garbage can over there. Maybe it's a bag of chips. All right, we'll unhandcuff you now. It's clearly a bag of chips. I warned about this type of stuff. And these are the AI systems that are trying to get themselves all over the place. If it's bad enough we have flock cameras, now we got these AI nonsense cameras coming out here as well. I got news for you. I hope this kid's parents sue, and I hope this kid's parents get $1 million. And I hope this kid gets a chance to go to college on that $1 million. But here's the kicker. This $1 million benefit I would like this kid to get should not come from the school district. That's the taxpayers. Why in the world should the local taxpayers of Baltimore have to pay out $1 million settlement over something the AI company falsely did? So here's what I think needs to happen. The AI company needs to be held completely liable for its false flag. They need to pay this teenager $1 million and the family. They need to issue an apology, decommission their system, and refund everybody. And what about all the VCs? F the VCs. Screw off, VCs. Y'all lost billions of dollars because you pushed out a stupid AI system that flags a bag of Doritos as a gun and causes a kid to be handcuffed. F around and find out. The VCs that funded that project, the company behind it, they should be paying the money. Not the school district, not the taxpayers, not the police, the AI company. And once again, I'm going to say it, as I said before, we have got to know who is liable for these things before we roll this crap out into the public space, because this is a real world consequence when a bunch of police officers roll in and throw a kid in handcuffs over a bag of Doritos. This is insane. Insane. We need to stop this kind of crap. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments down below and tell me, do you agree? Is our AI a bigger liability? Let me know. All right, there's the end of that section. Yeah, I wasn't fast enough on my Tom on fire. All right, but anyways, it is still here. And maybe I should redo that for the new screen here. I should make that a little bit better there, but I don't know. We have a super chat over there. Fig1XC, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the high ground POV. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Always appreciate that. And let me jump on over, have a look. Let's see. We got 18 watching over on Rumble. We got Ivan's over there. Dan's over there. Crash Override. What's up, Commodore 64 users? All right. Hope AI is not a liability. My Olama install won't be pleased. Do you want to be nice on Olama? Almost missed the live, XQE4. Well, I'm glad you make it. YouTube AI is going full woke bot. Yeah, is that the video we've been following the Windows case on? Can't do YouTube. I can do a different front end, something on it. Hey, we're over here on Rumble. We're over here on Odyssey. If you don't know where those are, check the link in the description at switchedtolinux.com. There's links are down there. YouTube is striking tech and gaming channels. Yep. Maybe it's time for Rumble to shine. I hope so, but I'm not holding out any hope. I have not seen anybody organically grow on Rumble. Everybody that's big on Rumble brought big audiences from YouTube. And also on Rumble, I don't see anybody massively successful that's not a political figure. And which is sad because I would like there to be a better option. But how is recall even legal? Well, if you choose to install it, Let's see. Don't have Windows. I guess that's the new snapshot thing. Yeah. Yeah. The recall, it takes pictures of your computer like every 5 seconds and then does OCR on all the text on the screen. Yep. For Tom not liking VPN. Oh, I didn't say I didn't like VPN. I just said that they are oversold as a privacy feature and they're not a privacy tool. They're more of a security tool. If we're doing 1984, I'm consuming my Victory Gin. There you go. Well, I got real coffee around here somewhere. That's real coffee. Where'd you get real coffee? Screw, someone should not be arrested because of an AI hallucination. Yep. What it said of woke AI, YouTube striking a channel. Yep. AI will scrape Reddit, so if they think it's a misogynist, bigoted, homophobe, then that's what you are. Olama doesn't use NPU yet. Oh, dear. I'm not a homophobe. I don't like the homophobe people. These people are truly evil and hate innocent people. Well, here's the problem is your word itself, a homophobe. The problem is you have all these leftist morons that label everyone a homophobe that says, yeah, I don't agree with that lifestyle. Because I got news for you. I don't agree with that lifestyle. But I'm not a homophobe. Like, oh, it's a gay guy. I'm afraid of him. No. It's simple. I don't agree with your lifestyle. And you probably don't agree with mine. Can we agree to disagree? All right. That's not homophobic. All right. Watch Switch to Linux and Lunduk videos, so AI would probably say I might be a Jewish Nazi. There you go. I need to get me a little Jewish hat. That'd be fun, right? I don't think I'm Jewish. I don't think I have any Jewish in me. I might have more German in me. I don't know. It might be dangerous. Let's see. Neither's true about Tom, and Lunduk isn't a Nazi. Just being facetious. I know. Hey, man, the problem is we embrace the fun anyway. People have made words for really bad things not mean anything anymore. Yeah. It's true. All right, let me get past all this Nazi talk. Agree, hospitals should be nonprofit. Buildings will be kept up. Staff will get paid, and patients would spend less. Pretty much everybody wins. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Llama 3.2 has a different view of Robbie Starbuck. I was curious. I had to ask. Yeah, I know it was. I know it was Google's, and they talked about Google and Gemini and things. I thought he said other ones there, but I was only half listening to the interview. So, let's see. CashOS handheld edition is what I have on my Steam Deck. Outperforms SteamOS, and it's not immutable. There you go. All right. I have a lot of comments going over. Taki eats Doritos. There's irony. I'll be honest, I don't get the Taki joke. That they did make the Taki joke in the article. I don't get the Taki. What is so wrong with Taki eating Doritos? I don't know. Please let me know. What am I missing on that? Let's see. Remember the dude carrying the umbrella? AR-15, yeah. Roll crap out to the public. What is this? San Francisco? Yeah. This is TOS that nobody reads. AI products aren't liable. Yeah. Stalling wind bloat. Oh no, don't do it. 14 watching over on Odyssey. Let's see what we got over here. Vanix greetings. XGUI4 is over there as well. Let's see. That had an easy privacy compliant solution. The company computer, do not use it privately because the firewall is intercepting the traffic for security reasons. There you go. Your personal one, no. Their computer can have their spyware fine. Unless they give you the money to buy that computer, your computer should never have their spyware. Yep, I agree with that. They wouldn't need Teams to know if you're in the office. You can just have any decent RMM software. Check the network configuration. Yep, there you go. Okay, Doritos, cheesy. All right. I have 2 bags of Doritos, afraid the SWAT team or the ATF is going to show up. I know, man. I mean, I don't have Doritos with me. I might have to go buy me some Doritos now, though, and I'm hungry for Doritos. Oh, no Jeb ever is unvaxxed and eating Doritos. Watch out, man. Watch out. They might be coming for you. All right, we got 51 watching over on Zatubies. No one you know, greetings to you. Cube G1, greetings to you as well. Don't forget Matrix. I'm waiting for the whoop. Yeah, my keyboard is dead. I forgot to charge it. Fresh Vintage, greetings to you. Is that a new image there? Fresh Vintage. It looks pretty new. Bummer on the keyboard. And Tom, please add Solace to your list of distros to look at as they switch from their own package manager to Discovery. Then I updated my one laptop on Budgie. Really? Huh. Well, it's definitely better than the GNOME software store. My Fedora video I'll release over the weekend. We had some not so nice things to say about the GNOME software store. Okay, watching Asianometry, a good video on Mac history. Interesting. All right, I moved that laptop to Manjaro GNOME, so all my systems are not Manjaro. There you go. Okay. All right, everyone, let's crowdfund a keyboard. Oh, no, it works. I just didn't charge the battery. Yeah, don't go near Slab City. But come on, man. Last time I was in Slab City, a drug cartel set up shop right next to me. Slab City is a great place to go, man. Oh, dear. Let's see. Made hot sauce using Carolina. I'm guessing you mean Reapers, unless I've never heard of Carolina Breepers, but you might be talking like that after you eat that stuff. Golden Ghost, habaneros, and Jaspolinos? Oh, jalapenos. Okay. All right. Don't like the workflow. Let's see. Tried GNOME, but could never get used to the dock. Yeah. We were being stalked everywhere. Yep. So you use Manjaro's traditional layout with the new Arc menu. Calling for Nia. Do you mean calling for Nia? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I mean. Well, I'm not sure what calling for Nia is. I think as a dock, I can remember you could click the icon in the middle. It would open up the screen with all the applications, kind of like Android. Yeah, that's the way GNOME does things by default. Really tell if someone is working when a person can do the work in 5 minutes and person B takes 20 minutes. Yeah. You know, and if you're going to do that type of micromanagement, that's what happens is the person will slowly pluck away and take twice as long to do something they could have done in less time. Open and close the door quickly to reset the timer unless it works on butt prints to detect a new person. It looked like it was the camera that was monitoring who goes in and out of the place. Never signed that thing at my work for anything when I was there. Work remote from a main office. They want to make sure I clock in and out at my site. Yeah, jobs where they let you just get on with things and don't treat like a child are certainly worth holding out onto. Yep. Hate Comcast. Yeah, you're not alone in that one. We were having a pretty good thing there. And I said Robbie was a good chance of winning. I'm completely operational and my circuits are functioning perfectly. There you go. Well, that's good to know. Like my credit union. Yeah, I have one credit union. It's a very inconvenient bank to use living on the road. Banks are fragile these days, like Humpty Dumpty, yes. Once changed their bank and changed names like every 2 years, yeah. Amazon is going to be sorry they fired workers when the AI backfires on them. Yeah, I believe they will be. They're going to be like Klarna. You know, they'll have to be... Or no, there was another bank. Klarna was bad enough, but there was a bank that laid off everybody, and they had to pay people like twice as much to take their jobs back. Amazon was just firing lower performing 10%. Yeah, that's possible. Suppose she thought it was funny at the time to prank her husband. I guess that's what's going on. Be careful when you say... lose computer privileges. It can be used on you one day for any other reason by the state. I know, I'm aware of that, but we got to try something, you know, and obviously checks and balances. Obviously we're talking jury trials here, but you know, when you go through the painstaking thing of pranking somebody to the point where they cause 8 police officers to bust in your door looking for a burglar who was never there because you were AI jokes, you know, I'm sorry, I just don't think you're competent to be on the internet anymore. It's convenient to blame the system as no accountability, and it's just another version of not my department. Yeah, that's true. The AI alert was sent to human reviewers who found no threat, but the principal missed this and contacted the school resource officer. Oh, really? The thin client good? Thin client? What are you talking about? Thin clients are embedded computers. Check that the board is supported. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Taki is another snack food. Okay. Wait, if someone had medical records on the PC and Recall takes pictures, is it a HIPAA violation? No, because you consented it. LGBT plus goes. I just do not care. I have far too many of my own issues to worry about someone else's. Also don't have the time or energy to hate somebody. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's most of the people. We do not have the time. It's 10 minutes. He's telling me that we finished 10 minutes ago, so it's about time to get back to main stuff. All right, so I'm taking life in your own hands there, Ivan. I'm not going to check Matrix right now. All right, let's go ahead and get on over to Quick Lines. So moving over to Quick Lines, Apple says U.S. passport digital IDs are coming to the Apple Wallet soon. Get ready for that digital ID, folks. It's going to roll out in your Apple computers. Oh, boy. Oh boy. So Apple says it will soon introduce Apple Wallet feature that will allow U.S. users to create a digital ID using their passport. All right, so with Apple's expansion of Wallet, it's more than a payment mechanism or ticket holder, but also a secure place to store a user's digital identity. Support for government IDs and Apple Wallet has rolled out to 12 states and Puerto Rico, which is roughly 1/3 of the U.S. license holders. While the new digital IDs won't replace U.S. passports, they could allow travelers to move through checkpoints. See, as long as your digital ID is not a centrally run system, I'm okay with it. As long as it's not forced, I'm okay with it. So this doesn't bother me too much, but it is kind of the slippery slope that could lead into pushing digital IDs kind of everywhere. And I'm sort of against that one. All right, 70 countries signed the new UN Cybercrime Convention. Not everyone is on board. The treaty needs at least 40. Now, I have a question here. Does it need 110? Because it says 70 countries sign it, but it needs at least 40 UN members to ratify it. I guess maybe they signed it, but it needs ratified. So basically, this is the UN trying to make global laws that exist around the entirety of the world. And the problem with this is that it goes too far. If we have some global ability to extradite criminals across lines, so I stop getting spam calls from guys just outside the jurisdiction of the United States selling scam timeshares, and we can actually report these and cause investigation and force that country to hand that scumbag over to us that he can face our justice system, I'm okay with that for solid, good police work and international cooperation, because to their point, cybercrime happens over jurisdictional boundaries, which is what makes it so effective. The problem is that the bill also goes too far as to implement, your predictive policing policies, your data collection, your spying, and things like that. That is the type of stuff I completely push against. And so if we're talking about just creating a system that says, hey, we need global extradition and global cooperation. If a person commits even some minor type of wire fraud across international borders, everybody gets to cooperate in investigating and bringing the person to justice. I'm okay with that. But if it's, we're going to monitor, we're going to watch, we're going to store data, we're going to do dystopian things with it, yeah, you've lost me there. And that's kind of what this is boiling down to. United States has not signed on this. So we'll see what happens there. Good thing we have a thinking person out there rather than, an auto pen or something. We would have signed it for sure. But cybersecurity experts are also concerned that it also is too broad, that basically prevents white hat hacking, like legitimate white hat hacking. Microsoft is concerned about that. And so there are a lot of problems with this law. So we'll see. All right, this one here, I am now conditioned to think Mozilla's up to something wrong, and I can't see something wrong in this. So please tell me in the comments down below. Is there a problem with this or not? Because Mozilla, if there's not, this is like the first intelligent thing Mozilla's did in a long time, which is just, I can't fathom it these days. I cannot fathom that Mozilla made a good decision, but I can't see something specifically wrong with this. So starting on November 3rd, all new Firefox extensions must specify in their manifest.json file whether they collect or transmit personal data. So this is done via the browser-specific settings gecko data collection permissions key, and it only impacts newly created extensions. New versions of already published are not affected at launch, although presumably they will add that later on down the line. Extensions that do not collect or transmit any personal data must still declare it by just saying that none is required. So effectively what Firefox is saying here is every single extension has to make a statement about what type of personal data could potentially be collected. This might give them teeth to go after extensions that are abusing data collection or doing shady things, and it may give them a little bit more legal force to remove extensions that are lying about it. Overall, I think I agree with this one. This might very well be the time that the broken clock is right, but let me know in the comments, am I missing something fundamental here? I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking Firefox did something right. All right. This was an interesting one here. A brand new phishing scam coming around. This one pokes at your death. So LastPass, a new phishing scam that says that death notices have been used on your account. So you better log in quick and urgently if you're not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. All right. So LastPass alerted users about a new phishing attack and claims the recipient has died. Okay. Well, that's morbid. And so a death certificate was uploaded by a family member to regain access to the LastPass account, and they have the account information there. If you have not passed away and you believe this is a mistake, please reply to this email with stop. Okay. Legacy requested opened. Urgent if you are not deceased. death certificate uploaded by a family member to regain access to the LastPass account. If you have not passed away and you believe this is a mistake, reply to the email with stop. And so obviously this is a phishing scam, but it caused me to go, wait, you can do this in LastPass? It turns out that you actually can. We're not going to read this page. There's a lot of information on it. Let me just summarize it. This is actually something decent that LastPass does. So what they're doing here is if you have LastPass, and I don't recommend it because it's an online password manager. If you have LastPass and a family member has LastPass, you can set up a family member as an emergency person. The emergency access effectively creates a passkey for your password manager in their account, but it can only be triggered if a LastPass trust and safety team unlocks it. And so you would do that by uploading a death certificate or uploading something from a hospital or some other verification that they can go through and verify utilizing the legal means to verify death, disablement, dismemberment, things like that, which would grant you access to theirs. This is actually a good thing. And I actually like the way LastPass does it. Like, this is... The broken clock is right again. LastPass is doing something right. Mozilla's doing something right. Guys, the end of the world is nigh. The end is nigh, folks. The end is nigh. It's coming. All right. So this is actually decent. Now, of course, I do not recommend LastPass. I think there's a problem, and I think that it's possible that these guys are just trying to get into your keys, obviously, verifying accounts, things like that. Obviously, I would say you should use KeePass XE, offline password manager. And when you do that, you know, it's very important, though, in our digital age, you should set up a digital I died system in your will. Here is a master password. Here's a copy of it. And this is the actual password to get into it. You can put this into a will that can't be opened until after you die. Hand it to your lawyer or something. And then when you die, your lawyer will be like, here is upon the death, the password. So you have access to the file at any time, but you don't know the password. The lawyer knows the password, but has no access to the file. The lawyer, upon your death, hands the family member the password, you know, the executor of the estate. Now the executor of the estate can open up the archive and have access to every password, passkey, and everything else that you set up. So all that is actually the better ways to do these. But I do like what they're doing, and just be aware if you are using LastPass, don't fall for the phishing scandal. Nobody uploaded your death certificate. Okay. If you think someone might have, then, well, first and foremost, there's something else going wrong. First thing, look in the mirror. If you can see a reflection, you're probably not dead. Pinch yourself. That'll kind of tell you if you're not dead or not. And you know, maybe visit a priest, see if you are a disembodied spirit. I don't know. But ultimately, log into your LastPass account and see if there's any notification about, have you died? There's a thought. Okay. Gmail linked credentials exposed in a massive breach. So 183 million credentials serviced online. Now, this is not a breach in Google. This was a info stealer campaign. So this is people who have saved their password into their browsers, and then they got infected with an info stealer campaign, and that allowed them to get in there and steal the data. Of these, they said 183 million, including, I think it was the 16.4 million addresses were actually the first time breaches. So many of these had already leaked before, but some of these were actually new. 3.5 terabytes of stolen data containing 183 million unique accounts, including 16.4 million addresses. Maybe it's less than that. It's down here on the bottom. The collection reportedly originated from info stealer malware campaigns that capture login details from infected devices, along with reused credentials leaked in older breaches. Both everyday Gmail users and enterprise Google Workspace customers are being urged to take precautions. And they looked around at these and found some of these were actually new. 16.4 million of the credentials were new data breaches. So 16.4 million new ones leaked in there. So, of course, if you have 2FA turned on, you're probably going to be a little bit safe from that. But still, if you check, have I been pwned, to see if you are in there, you might want to change your password anyway. And obviously, don't reuse your passwords. That would be dumb. All right, researchers uncover a remote code execution flaw in the abandoned Rust code library. There you go. All these super Rust is the way to go. Rust is super secure. Rust. Yeah, Rust rusted. Whoops. Just like any open source project, if somebody abandons the project and it is constantly continues to be used inside of libraries and applications and things like that, it will cause some form of supply chain breach. And that's exactly what happened here. An early and since abandoned code for open source async tar archive library for the Rust programming language occurred. So basically it was created, it was used, there was a vulnerability in it, but then after it was abandoned, that thing was forked with the vulnerability. And now the vulnerability is forked across several things and the whole thing got all forked up. It's crazy. Given its presence in critical, widely developed deployed tools like UV Package Manager, potential impact on build systems and production environments across companies is substantial. And so they said the CVSS rating of 8.1 affects async tar Rust library and many forks, including Tokyo tar, Python Package Manager UV, test containers, Worms Cloud, Astral Tokyo tar, Krata Tokyo tar, and the most popular that has over 5 million downloads and is no longer maintained. Wonderful. So textbook case of open source abandonware crisis. Original bug was introduced early on and then was repeatedly forked as the project became unmaintained. And of course, I think they're calling this Tarmageddon. Yes. Cybersecurity company created patches the next day, worked on getting fixed into as many of the active forks and open source projects as possible before publicly disclosing it. Yes, they're calling it Tarmageddon. Make sure that code's not abandonware. It's used in your project, even in the super amazing, perfect Rust. All right, well, Fitbit is getting worse. Fitbit's revamped app with Gemini-powered health coach rolls out to premium users. Great. This one's a particularly dangerous one because of how many different legitimate opinions there are around exercise. Remember that Google doesn't want you to have choice. They want to just tell you what the correct answer is. And that raises a fundamental problem with basic philosophy. Consider diets, for example, something I have a lot of experience in actual research studying. Looking at various diets, everyone says their diet is superior. The vegans, we have a superior diet. Oh no, the paleo has the superior diet. Nope, it's the Mediterranean diet. Nope, it's the Weight Watchers. The problem is that all of these diets demonstrate themselves to be beneficial when compared to the average Western diet. There's very few studies that compared the diets among themselves. Actually, one of the best one was by Stanford? It wasn't Stanford University. It was a guy named Stanford. David Stanford? It's something. It was called the A to Z Diet Study. Atkins, they did Atkins, Ornish, Zone, and Mediterranean. And he is a vegetarian, so he would have liked something that trended more towards like your Ornish diet. The Ornish diet is primarily vegetarian. And he was forced to admit, after doing an extensive research on the report, he was forced to admit that the Atkins diet actually had the best overall health markers, not comparing each diet to the Western, but comparing each diet to each other. But there are caveats to that. Like if you're doing like the Atkins diet, which is a very heavy meat diet, but you're doing, I'm Atkins, I can eat all this meat, and you're plumbing yourself down with sodium nitrite laced bacon and all sorts of other prepared and preserved meats, that is always worse for you than your standard non-preserved meats, which is why for a long time, like, meat causes cancer. No, meat never caused cancer. They just lumped sodium nitrite filled bacons and sausages in with steaks and chickens and things like that. And those little items caused a spike. And so the diet industry is extraordinarily complex and there is no right answer. Addition to all of those individual studies, we also have to consider your individual body chemistry. Some people will respond better to an Atkins. Some people will respond better to an Ornish. So you should experiment with different diets and things. The problem you have with an AI-powered fitness coach is the AI-powered fitness coach is going to give you one and only one option, and it's probably the one pushed by the craziest of all people. And that craziest of all people is going to assume it's 100% right and everything else to the contrary is wrong. And that's a problem because there is so much information out there that each person should really investigate it for themselves and try it for themselves and see what is the best way to go. So now Gemini is counting on the Gemini AI assistant to help Fitbit stand out from the crowd, called Coach. The feature is designed to be your all-in-one fitness trainer, sleep coach, and health and wellness advisor. Now, it's not launching with nutritional and dietary things, but that will apparently come later. It can be used to create a custom routine based on your goals, preferences, and available equipment. Of course, it monitors your sleep at all times. It knows everything about you. It knows all of your exercise stuff. And then, of course, it feeds all the stuff up to Google servers where Alphabet is working on its health insurance companies. Wonderful. Keep in mind, several features are still unavailable, such as nutrition tracking and cycle logging. But, you can get all this on amazing Fitbit type stuff and send all of your health data up to Google's clouds, where they will for sure monetize that data any way it sees fit. Health tab is dedicated key metrics, providing quick access to vital signs such as breathing rates and blood oxygen saturation and resting heart rate, and offering comprehensive overview of your health. Wonderful. So once again, guys, delete Fitbit from your life. Use something that is offline only. Don't be giving all this sensitive health data up there. Or don't be like, well, I don't know, man. This thing's so beneficial. It's so awesome. I just can't figure out why my health premiums keep going up. Giving all your data to health insurance companies. Duh. OpenAI strikes a deal with Microsoft in a for-profit switch. Remember, OpenAI was originally started as a nonprofit. Elon Musk kind of sues them over this a little bit. And now they have actually shifted themselves into a for-profit arm, into a public benefit corporation. So part of this is keeping Microsoft intellectual property rights until 2032, although Microsoft will no longer have first right of refusal to be OpenAI's compute provider. So prior to this, OpenAI was dependent on having to use Microsoft servers. Now Microsoft has to bid on the server use like any other company would. So the first right of refusal means if OpenAI needs some more data infrastructure, they first had to go to Microsoft. Only if Microsoft said no could they reach out beyond that company. So Microsoft now no longer has that first right of refusal, which means that now OpenAI is free to branch out to other infrastructure companies as well. So as many observers have noted, OpenAI's status could clear the path for the company to go public and help it attract more talent. So wonderful, a for-profit ChatGPT system. We already covered how the world is a lot worse off because of AI. Now we're going to have all of this nonsense. Now OpenAI will be completely responsible to the fiduciary stakeholders, shareholders, not the not caring as much about is it good for people or not. So it's frightening. Wonderful. And good news for us Linuxy guys, nearly 90% of Windows games now run on Linux. According to the latest data, Windows 10 dies, gaming on Linux is more viable than ever. So this group here uses a different model than Steam used, and mostly pushes the numbers above what Steam is, mostly because one of the factors on Steam depended on the Steam OS only, whereas in this rating, any Linux distribution can be measured. Ratings were perhaps more useful to desktop and laptop PC users who typically have systems that easily outpace the Steam Deck. So previously it was tied to the hardware on the Steam Deck. Now it's pretty much tied to any particular computer. So looking at the chart, we see an encouraging growth in the number of new releases that are platinum, and then thinning down to the dark zones. So the green are the goods, the yellows will even run, and you'll see that the number is getting even smaller of those that can't run at all, mostly just the big titles with the solid kernel level anti-cheat. That's the only thing that we have not yet received. So there you go. If anybody's like, well, you just can't do games on Linux, go ahead and give them that article, because it is indeed very true that 90% of games will run on Linux. All right, let me grab a quick tip of tea here. And now we will move on over to Sillyville, folks. Are we ready to get silly? Well, now that ChatGPT is looking at age verification stuff, now they have a way to tell if you can now play with the not safe for work version of ChatGPT. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah, all right. You'll be listening to some NSYNC, listen to that digital get down, talking to your ChatGPT. How wonderful! I wonder how many dads will have their IDs stolen by their teenage sons. Whoa! Hey, I'm an adult. Look at this ID. The service will soon be able to engage in far less highbrow conversations of the kind. That's right. It's bad enough when you're engaging in sexting with your high school sweetheart. It's really bad when you're engaging in sexting with ChatGPT, which is just looking to collect and harvest your data and use it against you later. Wonderful. All right. Makes a change sentiment for the company, which originally banned not safe for work content. October 14th, Altman said the company has kept ChatGPT pretty restrictive to avoid creating mental health issues for vulnerable users. Are you implying that vulnerable users are only young people? Like, what happens when you're like a mentally unstable adult and you start engaging in this type of behavior? I'm sorry, this is going to lead to a lot more bad things happening. But yeah. Of course, AI girlfriends and AI boyfriends already spans everything from video-based virtual partners to augmented reality companions that can call you. Not to mention watch the movie Her sometime. There you go. Annie, so this is Elon Musk is launching a option here that will apparently strip for you if you pester it enough to. So what is the message here? Engage in roofie culture? Is that what our message is? You just got to keep begging the girl until she gives you what she wants? Oh, wonderful. This is not good, folks. This is not good. And not to mention it's going to cause a lot of problems for you. All right. The only thing I can say about this is it didn't happen in Ohio. The Albanian prime minister says his AI minister is pregnant and will give birth to 83 AI kids. What a world. So remember Albania put forth this AI person that's supposed to do policy to, be a lot more fair and have a lot less, a lot less preferential treatment. But the reality is you could just manipulate the thing to still get what you want. But now they say his AI minister is pregnant and will give birth to 83 kids. This is 101 Dalmatians, I guess. He announces his AI minister, Delhi, is pregnant, will give birth to the AI kids. The AI kids will serve as assistants to each of the 83 members of the Socialist Party of Albania. Great. That's all we need. Socialist robots. That's terrifying. Like, socialist humans are bad enough. Socialist robots? Are you trying to create Skynet? Yeah.
To share
I have my
first
headset
time
on. Hear this.
that Diela is pregnant and she's expecting 83 kids. Each kid for one member of our parliament. That will.
So he said that with a straight face. Our AI minister is pregnant and will give birth to AI children. At least, as I said, this is not happening in Ohio, where they kind of banned this. All right, I got to give you more reactions. All right. Who impregnated Delhi? We must get to the bottom of this. It's quite artistic play. Good zeitgeist couch. Can you address Admiral so we can find out what the family tree will look like in the next generation of offspring? This could be quite a swarm. Maybe they could turn into officials in the next couple years themselves. This whole birth metaphor is just a clever way to roll out a massive software deployment. They are probably hoping these AI kids can finally get some paperwork filed correctly, which would be a miracle in any bureaucracy. There you go. If you told me in 2023 that this group of words will come together, I wouldn't believe you. We live in a South Park episode. How wonderful. Start the rapture, Jesus. All right. If you have to appear in court on a Zoom call, please make sure you're wearing
Jackson,
pants.
batch number 3919. out of the 12th precinct.
All right.
Officer
Today,
Jackson. He got to ask
Yeah.
his camera, Judge.
you got some pants on, officer?
Sir, they're in the. No, sir.
Officer Jackson,
So he swears himself into court. He's got his police shirt on, but the wide angle camera shows he's not wearing any pants for court. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, he wasn't. At least he wasn't playing with anything. That's the good news, right? Who was that name of that guy? Was it MSNBC? I think he got himself suspended there. He had a very ironic name too. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, kind of funny. Well, if you, I don't think I saw pants, but at least you can wear a stylish shirt if you got to swear yourself into court. Shop.switchedtolinux.com. We got some t-shirts over there. T-shirts, hoodies. We do have onesies for your babies, so your baby's good. We don't have pants. I should have pants to this. I don't know. But anyway, you can come on over here. Shop.switchedtolinux.com if you want to help support the channel. We're going to go ahead and feed the beasts, and then we will read up on comments, and then we will go from there. Kitty, kitty. Want some kitty, kitty treats? Kitty, kitty. All right, the beasts have been fed. Since I missed out on Matrix earlier, I'm going to go over and check out Matrix first. No. Okay, I don't know if I can get to Matrix first. That's 16th. I read all these. 23rd. Nope. Is the 30th. All right, let's go ahead. There we are. Ivan's on over there. XGUI4 Studios over there. Greetings. Welcome. Feel free to join us. It's quiet here tonight. All right. Kaiser, I'm a gamer and I'm proud of it. I support gamer rights and gamer marriage. There you go. Also a proud gamer. We've got a lot of proud gamers over there. You got locally run LLMs that you can... I don't like these ideas. Socially anxious, but I don't want an AI bot. Yes. No one ever crushed on me, or at least I never knew of any. Socialist bots. That's right. Looks like we don't have a lot of stuff going on over there. Good. I was expecting to have a massive list of stuff. I want to own the AI socialist bots means of production. Oh boy. Then I left out a word. Yeah. All right. Yeah, not a whole lot. All right. Let's see what we got over here. Let's see. But recall can be forced by your corporation or school, for example. Yes, Takis are a snack, like Doritos. Yeah. All right. Wayland, Gnome, KDE, Python are sadly quite woke. Yeah, I did see the Lunduk Twitter post about that. As long as people aren't being banned from communities and they're just silly opinions, Gnome is the worst offender in all. Yeah. KDE does the name calling and Python do and love reverse discrimination. Internet must be forked. Yeah. Parallel internet. So there you go. People that are guilty of swatting should face attempted murder charges. Absolutely, I agree. Yep. I'm against all ID. There you go. So much a project of welcome being good on EOS with Hyperland and i3WM with X Libra. There you go. How easy is, it's pretty easy to do a Matrix account. We use Element. Of course, you use whatever Matrix account you want, or whatever Matrix client you want. You just create your Matrix account. And it uses, I think it uses an email address and a username. I think that's it. Okay. Eat 2 pounds of bacon every day. It's okay because it's part of the Atkins diet. Like, I mean, I use, when I do bacon, I do uncured bacon, which is a lot better. So if you can get those, it's cured with celery salt instead of sodium nitrite. So it is a lot better. But still, just limits is the best. Bill Gates couldn't even keep viruses out of Windows. Why should I trust him with advice regarding human viruses? There you go. Tubin, that's right. Yeah, it was Tubin. Tubin was Tubin on a Zoom call. Does shop.switchedtolinux.com take EBT? Probably not. Gates wants to eat his fake butter. Well, actually, right now, of course, mostly because AI is starting to cause an energy crisis. Bill Gates has this week backtracked on all his global warming stuff. Bill Gates no longer believes global warming will kill us. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, let's see. Grokpedia seems better than Wokepedia. Yeah, I haven't looked at it. Wanting to ban it is even worse. Smoking is bad, but people who want to ban tobacco are bad. Humans are not cattle to be kept healthy by Big Brother. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those interesting things because do I really support banning of tobacco products? Probably not, but we all have to kind of agree that it's not good for you. And we, of course, have to resist any form of trying to get kids addicted to it when they're too impressionable. Okay, trusting AI blindly is stupid. Yep. Trusting any source without thinking is stupid. Absolutely. Yep. Do you think this would be more effective? I have no idea what that image is. So, let's see. So here's though the who cares? People mess themselves up with ChatGPT. The problem with a lot of these types of things, it's kind of like the reason I cannot be a pure libertarian. You hear people like say, oh, if you want to get caught up on meth, that's your big deal. The problem is if you have a meth head in your neighborhood, he's going to be your problem eventually. And that's the challenge. So the libertarian thing that sits down and says, well, who do you care if someone does this, that, or the other? Eventually it becomes your problem because meth heads got a meth. They have an insatiable desire to do that. And unless they're independently wealthy and have the full ability to capture absolutely every amount of it they possibly can forever, eventually they're going to be stealing stuff. And if you live in the neighborhood, you are the prime target because they don't have rational thought. Their brain cells have been rotted away. If you got a meth head in your neighborhood, he eventually is going to be your problem. And so the pure libertarian argument collapses under that realization. I think ChatGPT is the same thing. It can cause some severe mental stupidity in our world. And mental stupidity in our world will eventually affect you. And that's a problem. Like, look at the article we looked at with the woman who texts her husband so he breaks in. This is a person who has been on social media too long. This is a person who's been on AI too long. This is a person who's no longer thinking. And now they have created a problem for a number of people. And that's one of those things you have to think about. So this is where policy comes into play and where libertarianism starts to collapse. The reason I don't buy libertarian with alcohol, for example, is like I don't like that you can go into nearly any store and find alcohol in every aisle. I like the states that even, the gas station or the grocery store could sell alcohol, but they have to put it in a back corner somewhere. You intentionally have to go in there. It's usually a separate spot of the store. It usually has a separate cashier. Whereas in Pennsylvania, it banned alcohol sales anywhere except certain distributors for it. This rule was overturned, and now you can't walk through a grocery store without it being promoted to you right in your face. The problem is a person who has been down the road of alcoholism and is trying to stay clean now can't even walk into a grocery store without having that temptation kick him right in the face every single time he just needs to buy food. And so the problem we have with this pure libertarian argument is at some point in time, you have to consider other people. This is one of those principles in Christian thought. You have to consider your brother's example. Is eating the meat in Corinth bad? I mean, I was just reading that section from 1 Corinthians today. And the fact of the matter is that if if you're told, hey, this is meat we sacrifice to the idol, the Christian says, yeah, I shouldn't eat that. But if you kind of know it's probably sacrificed to idols, but you don't totally know, and it's not really announced to you that way, and it's just put in front of you, don't worry about if it was sacrificed to idols. But if you have a weaker brother who's like, I cannot eat meat because all meat in this city has been sacrificed to idols, the mature believer who understands an idol is nothing but stone and wood is still commanded in the presence of his brother to not eat that meat because it would be a stumbling block for his brother. And that is kind of that same argument. We do not want to put alcohol front and center in every place, in every business, and everywhere you walk, because there are people in our society that are trying not to drink. And we have to be cognizant of that. And so, yes, that's a long about answer about why do we care if people mess themselves up with ChatGPT? Because eventually it's going to be everybody else's problem. And that's the challenge. Your mother was a GPU. If it's a boy, call him Chip. Who wears a hoodie to court? A criminal. We have alcohol in grocery stores. If alkies have an issue with that, it's their problem. Forcing their problems on society is large. No, because there is alternatives to buy alcohol that does not put it in the face of everybody. And that's what my point is. We cause a stumbling block for people that say, I can't handle this, and I'm trying to, for the betterment of my life, for the betterment of my society, for the betterment of my family. Can you give me an option without it? Of course, you could always just pay the extra money and have the food delivery. You have your spouse do the grocery shopping. But why should we go to these extremes for simply buying something like food when there is an option? You can still have your grocery store can still sell the alcohol. Just put it over there in the corner that I don't have to walk through the aisle to get to the milk. And that's what my point is. And so no, to say, well, it's their issue, their issue. You're just a jerk. Just have a little bit of common decency for other people in society. That's kind of what we need to do. I'm not saying you're a jerk necessarily. I'm just saying that we can't go so far that the liberal far left wants us to be so super cautious. We can't use the word retard. We can't go that far that if you're so sensitive, that is a problem. But at the same time, there are legitimate problems that there are alternatives to that we can deal with in an appropriate way. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Point of retailers to move product. I mean, I agree. And you can still move the product. Allergic to peanut butter, but I love the taste of it. Got to get out of my grocery store. No, that's a different matter. That's a completely different matter because we're talking allergies, not addictions. And addiction is a different thing. It really is a different thing. All right, let's see. Nation goes wicked, then everything goes out the doors. Means you can lose your computer privileges. Yep. The sign of the beast. Reports of my death are greatly exaggerated. There you go. LastPass is the last place to put a password. Yeah. Stop! I'm alive! How's this different than 1Password? Yeah. Passwords in wills can't be opened until you die or a court orders it open. It depends on how you set it up, you know. I wonder what Amish eat. I want that. Yeah, real food. That's it. Real food. Both your school sweetheart and Chat GPT are both collecting information to use against you. This is true. The high school girlfriend will indeed use that Chat GPT to use against you. So when did wearing pants become mandatory? Excuse me. I'll be right back. No kitty slippers. There you go. And Jeffrey Tubin, yeah. Okay. Self-hosting is the way forward. Absolutely. How convenient for Bill Gates now. Violating the do no harm principle, which never followed anyway. Yeah. Like, you can still be a libertarian. I'm just saying the pure libertarian would be like, there should not be any laws about anything. And I kind of reject that. Open national lands for drug addicts where they have free food, shelter, drugs, and major cities pay the bill. What will be the cheapest drug addicts will be around. Yeah. Don't open national lands for all those addicts. I'm camping on national lands right now. I do not want to, I like the fact I've not seen a human being in 4 days. Okay. I do not want to be surrounded by these guys. Do not open up national lands to drug addicts. No, I enjoy my national lands too much. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Sin is harmful to you, not just to you, but those in the sphere of influence. Yeah. More life is negative, the more drugs look positive. Yeah, there is truth to that. There is truth to that. Let's see. I agree with the right on the woke situation, but I agree the left on the evil R word and the N word. Yeah. R word makes me sad and scared for identity. All right. Send the drug addicts to meet Bigfoot. No. Don't send them out here. It's too nice out here. I don't want to be walking down this dirt road in the middle of a desolate area and trip over some heroin needle. I just don't want that. It's not cool. Not cool, man. Not cool. All right. I think I'm a cool jerk. Open National Lampoon. There you go. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll be back next week, hopefully with some more videos. We'll see what we got there going there. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.